This week, we take on one of the most historic tracks in all of motorsports. It's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Someone will be kissing the bricks by the end of the weekend. Find out who we think is going to be on the back road. Don't you? Come on down.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Backroad. It is In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. My name's Elliot Hicks. With me is Rod Villagomez, and we are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this weekend. It's the most historic track in racing, and it's going to be a lot of fun this weekend. How's it over in Hot Rod's garage, my friend?
Oh, it's fantastic. I cannot wait for this track. With what happened last week at Dover, there was a lot of nonsensical stuff that happened. I'm hoping the Indy is just a nice, straight up, I don't want to say drama free because you want a little bit of drama, but just a nice, straightforward race for us, especially for the betting card, and entertaining to boot. Is that too much to ask, Elliot? I don't know. Is it?
Hopefully not. I mean, you never know. Last year gave us some good stuff when we were in Indiana, and hopefully this year will too. Like you said, tonight's program will break down everything that happened at Dover, give you some reaction as well as the big news of the week. In our Horizon Forecast, we'll break down everything about Indianapolis, then give you our parking garage props, picks for the Cup and Xfinity Series that are on the oval, second year back on the oval. It just feels a lot better being on the oval. The road course was neat, but it doesn't have the same prestige. We'll talk a little bit about driver prestige later, but we also have the truck series over at IRP, Lucas Oil Raceway Park, or whatever it's called now, the shorter oval just a little bit down the road. That's always a fun one. F1's over in Belgium, Spa this weekend too. We'll close out the show with a couple of picks there. And you can get all of our picks in the IBT Racing family. It's our Discord chat that gives you the ability to join the conversation with myself, with Seth, with Rod, with Ryan for my fantasy race, the mastermind behind the exclusive weekly betting model that Seth does a great job putting together with Ryan every week that gives you the best bets that we think every week. We've had some big success with it, and we hope we know that you guys have also had success that have been riding with us, and it also gives you entry into memorabilia giveaways. We're asking just $3.99 a month or $36 for the year. I still got to work on Seth about maybe a little halfway through the year discount. We'll see if it's in the IBT budget. That'll be fun, but we certainly don't want to discount any of the fun that we have over there, Rob.
Yeah, no. And again, talking in the Discord, it's one of those things where we're building a family, right? And we're building a family of folks who love to talk about NASCAR and throw in last minute bets. Obviously, we do this show on a Thursday night, but things change between Thursday night and qualifying and even sometimes Sunday morning, when the odds start to shift again. And then, of course, live betting and all kinds of stuff. And, the only way to really get the full experience of it all is join the Discord and have fun with us talking NASCAR anytime other than today, right? That's when the whole week, whatever. Even right now, we'll just do it right now. Why not?
Yeah, throw an exclusive live show bet into the Discord. We'll have to start doing that. But yeah, and it really is. The odds, obviously, as you all know, because you're all pretty experienced bettors, you found your way to this program, and we appreciate it. You know that the odds are going to change. They get taken down for practice and qualifying, and based on that, they change. So we come in Sunday morning, and every once in a while, we'll add something to the card. Of course, our biggest one of the year, I think, there was a Sunday morning ad at Pocono. Seth and I are sitting there during the rain delay. We added John Hunter Nemechek top 10. I added Chase Elliott bet. I forget if it was a matchup or a top 5 or something. And it really made the card that week. So it's not even just the bets on the show that can really make things happen. It's those extra bets that come on the Discord. And we certainly appreciate you guys in there. We appreciate everybody as well listening to the audio version on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to leave a review if you like what you hear. Or if you don't, give us a crummy review, whatever. We'll try to improve for you. Shout out to everyone on 101.5 FM talking West Tennessee, 8 p.m. Saturday nights. You can catch us over there. The links to all of what I just was talking about in the episode description. And shout out to all our commenters as well. We had our little StreamYard YouTube reset lack of communication thing where everything before stands at 8:05 was wiped out. So shout out to anybody who we haven't gotten a look at over there. Stan predicts that the winner of the in-season challenge will win it in style by winning the race, and Ty will get the job done. Good odds on Ty winning the in-season challenge there. Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs in the final there. We'll talk about that later. We got our friend Marcus in as well. Hello, everyone. Who's your pick to win in Indianapolis? Throw it in the comments. Throw any good bets you see. Throw who your pick is. Tell us our picks are garbage, whatever you want to do. We appreciate the interaction throughout the show. Of course, Marcus predicts Christopher Bell is going to win at Indianapolis. Spinning out twice at Dover. I can't imagine the ride as a fan of a driver your guy's in the lead, overdrives it, spins out, gets all the way back up to the lead at the end of the race, overdrives it, spins out again. Certainly a wild time right there. Nick also in the chat saying what's up. His Cup winner, Reddick or Wallace on 2311. And it might not be the last we hear of 2311. Ends up going with Reddick as his main pick. We were just talking about Dover. Let's go ahead and get a look in the rear view at everything that happened in the Monster Mile. Certainly was a heck of a weekend down there in Dover, Delaware. In the Xfinity Series, Connor Zilisch earns win number 4 of the season in a rain-shortened affair. And I forget if I was talking to Seth, told him in the Discord, something like that. I wish that we could have put more money on Connor Zilisch over-unders. Nailed the 1.5 generational. I nailed the 2.5 over as well. And I just wish they'd keep giving us those numbers. I don't know why I don't have a Connor Zilisch championship future yet. I might have to fix that. I know you guys talked about championship futures last week. Go back and check that out too once this is done. You guys did a little update on where the championship odds sit. And something that I need to take a look at as well. As well as in the Cup Series, Denny Hamlin also claims win number 4 of his season, holding off Chase Briscoe and the new tires late. One of my favorite parts, though, shout out to NASCAR for getting back going. The rain comes with just, I think it was 14 laps to go. They could have just tossed it right there. All right, everybody, we've had a good race. Hamlin's in the lead. There's no super wild upset winner that played strategy. Hamlin obviously was a deserving winner of the race because he won it. But to get back going again after a quick shower to run those last 14 laps, that was really cool to see, in my opinion, Rob.
Yeah, I liked that because I was not going to be happy if that race ended under that red flag conditions, because that would have been back-to-back races in which we'd seen the race not end under I guess green, right, or even green white checker or whatever. Like, it just, I did not want to see another race end like that. Now, granted, Zilisch is inevitable, and I'll talk about him later on too. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad they got it going again. I really wish that things would have played out a little differently. I was holding on to an Elliot ticket that looked good for 200 and some odd laps through the course of the race, and then he does not decide to stay out, comes in for tires, inexplicably giving Denny Hamlin the lead. And let's face it, Elliot gave him the win.
Yeah, Chase Elliott really had the dominant car, led a good portion of laps throughout the day. And Chase Briscoe almost had enough time to get up there. A little bit of contact there in the last lap between the 11 and the 19. A little friendly fire, but Hamlin ends up winning. And it was really a battle between Hemric and JGR. It was probably the most exorbitant that has been maybe in the history of the next-gen car, as to where the top 8 for a large portion of that race, you had the 4 JGR cars, the 4 Hemric cars. And I'm a little, I guess part of you could say worried, but also maybe a little optimistic, a little expectant that we could see some more of that in Indianapolis this weekend.
If you look at the stats and break it down, that's exactly where it leads you, right? I mean, there's a lot of JGR cars that are good on this track. There's a lot of Hemric cars that are good on this track. So we may see a small replay of what we saw last week at Dover. But I think in the top 10, though, Elliot, there's been a few guys that aren't in either one of those camps that have had good track records here that might be able to break up that rock pile. But yeah, I mean, look, between Chase Elliott, which I know John Ray is in as well for him to win this race, like, you can make a case for pretty much all of them, maybe with the exception of Bowman, but it's tough. But yeah,
I'm learning to hear that slander. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, listen, it pains me to hate, or not hate, but it pains me to talk bad about the 48 car, because that has a soft spot in my heart. But
yeah, but it is a good point, though. Bowman, I think, has crashed in every next-gen race in Indianapolis that he's been in, so I don't blame you there. Certainly got the speed, though, and hey, you could even see the extensions. We were talking about 2311. Maybe even Spire comes up and surprises us. As you said here in the comments, John joining in saying Chase Elliott wins there. TK that's right. Chase Elliott came in, but only took 2 tires, which definitely was a little weird, but it's one of those cases where you get the 2 fresh tires, hopefully makes you a little bit faster without losing quite as much track position. But it turned out the 9 car lost just enough to end up being the worst finishing Hemric car all the way back in 6th place, or no, Byron crashed with the worst Hemric car that finished, at least.
Yeah, I mean, that's the frustrating part, is that, and then we've talked about it too. I think even me and Seth got a chance to talk about it yesterday, or last week rather, was that you can handicap a lot of things, but you cannot handicap a bad pit strategy at the end of the race. Like, that's the most frustrating part about it. You could have called that Elliott was going to be the best car all day long, which he was, but boy, it just takes one bad pit and then a bad pit stop on top of that too,
right?
To set you back.
Yeah, had that pit stop under green. The jack wouldn't quite come up, lost a couple spots there in the green. Wasn't a total loss of a weekend, Rod. I see you do have some winning bets on the card, though.
Yeah, I absolutely did. And it wasn't, like you said, it was not a total loss. I did have Logano over Hocevar. So thank you, Carson Hocevar, for making that one, sweat very early in the race. I did think that he was running probably dead last most of the race, but I had Logano over Hocevar. I did have Hamlin to run the fastest lap, which he did of the entire race at 2-1. So, yeah. And then Xfinity, I actually had Allgaier over Chastain and hammered Zilisch top 3 at plus 275. I cannot believe they gave us that number. I don't know if he would have hung on to win, but boy, if they would have gotten it going again, but top 3 was always in the cards for Connor Zilisch.
Yeah, it looked like he was running up front all day. I wasn't paying too much attention. My card was pretty small because I was out of state for a good portion of the weekend at a music festival. So some of my bets were on the Xfinity side. It was I saw Carson Kvapil run so well and almost win the race, and I think it was only his second or third Xfinity start. I thought Kvapil was an absolute hammer for a top 5, and then also laid a sprinkle on his outright as well as a little bit on Ryan Truex. Looks like the 1 and the 24 were pretty much at the back all day. Didn't really finish all that well. Didn't have anything on Zilisch. Then on the Cup side, the in-season tournament, of course, I had to keep playing those matchups and was able to get Ty Dillon over JHN. I finally have bought in to the Ty Dillon magic, and it rode me to the final there, getting my only win of the weekend because my other hammer was the Bowman outright, which was part on, he's really good at Dover, and part, I was at a music festival, was hoping on having a good time, and then hoping on hitting the big time bet there too. Music festival had rain kind of affect 2 out of the 3 days, and then I come back and Bowman ran third, but still was a weekend where I lost a bit of money. But small card, all in, doesn't bring much profit, but also was not quite as much loss either. We're back in it this week though, as is everybody else. Stan talking on that pit strategy. Problem I have is that he only took 2 tires, guaranteed to restart no worse than 7th. Either stay out or take 4 tires. Yeah, and I kind of don't blame these people that kind of are calling for Alan Gustafson's head. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch too far, but a guy who's been on the pit box for 20 years, I can understand, especially as the most popular driver. Anytime that the most popular driver doesn't win and that driver's pretty popular, I saw it with Dale Jr., it's kind of always someone else's fault, I feel like.
Yeah, and if I'm screaming at the TV, stay out, stay out, stay out, you got to think that everybody in America is saying, stay out, stay out, stay out, because there was no benefit to coming in. You saw it earlier in the race. There was no benefit to coming in for 2 tires. Staying out, track position was exactly what you had to do to win that race. They gave it away. And that's just the story.
Yeah, I think so. As we look at the finishing order here a little bit, Hamlin stayed out. Briscoe took the tires. Bowman stayed out. I think Larson also stayed out. I think Ty Gibbs and Chase took tires. So it was kind of a mixed bag there. And I don't blame people for kind of being weird on the strategy, though, too. We didn't quite know. I think the bet had already been made, but we didn't know kind of what was going to happen to the track with those 14 laps after the rain. And everything was kind of, cooled off a little bit. And it gave for an interesting end to the race. Like I said, I'm glad we got a green flag finish. And that certainly made the weekend a little bit better, even though it didn't work out quite the best for our cards at the end of the day.
Agreed. And at the end of the day, it was a very entertaining race between Briscoe and Hamlin. So there was drama and there was something to be had there at the end of it. And I think that should make you feel a little better, even if your betting cards were garbage because of the strategies.
Yeah, no doubt. So Dover was exciting. What's going to be really exciting next year is that NASCAR has made it official. The San Diego weekend is official for 2026. All 3 series are going to race from June 19th through the 21st of 2026 at the Naval Base Coronado. They put out a great video with some of the drivers on socials to officially announce this. The course layout's not official yet, but we know where it's going to be. We know when it's going to be. And I know a certain California native on this show is super excited for this weekend.
I cannot wait for this. This is San Diego already gorgeous, right? The backdrop for this race is going to be just, you're going to see it on TV and you're going to go, man, I wish I was there, but I don't have to wish that because I'm definitely going to be going. I don't care what it takes. I know that I don't live that far away from it. It's just a nice little flight in to San Diego. I got friends down there that can help me get to where I got to go. It's it's a perfect scenario for me. I'm really chomping to get to this race. I want it to be 2026 in San Diego already.
Yeah, hey, the blink of an eye will be there with how quick it's going. It'll be fun to see, and it is great that NASCAR is continuing to expand markets. It's really neat to have the military tie-in also. Of course, we know a lot of the NASCAR fan base and everyone in there, they put the people who have since passed on the Memorial Day at the Coke 600. Patriotism and NASCAR go together like peanut butter and jelly. So this is a super awesome opportunity. And I haven't done a lot of studying of the area or of what the course could potentially be. Seems like it'd be a pretty long road course. and it seems like it'll be something that's pretty interesting. A lot of people have made jokes as it kind of might go close to the ocean there, that especially with the truck series racing there, you make a wrong turn, someone ends up in the ocean there. I don't think it'll quite be that bad, but it certainly will be an entertaining weekend for sure out in California next year.
I think part of that will be on one of the carriers. They're going to just reroute you on one of the carriers and take you back off of it. So part of the drag strip will be on the airline or the aircraft carrier and take you back off. That'd be a hell of a track.
That would be pretty neat for sure. Or if they just, if you want to penalize somebody, have the carrier kind of set sail, and then you're out for 10 laps. We'll come back in. We'll let you come back in. That'd be a little harsh, but it certainly will be fun there. TK on the comments here. Love the SVG shout out in the video as well. Hosts of R being a little silly there. It's a fun little video. Go and take 3 minutes and watch it after this is done. His NASCAR social team certainly doing a good job on a lot of things this year. The in-season tournament video was pretty cool when they announced it. And overall, just good stuff. The other piece of news that we have, as I'm hunting for it in the graphics here, NASCAR made a rule change this week that will essentially lock in the 2311 and Front Row Motorsports cars the rest of the year. In NASCAR's wording, quote, NASCAR at its sole discretion may elect to limit the number of entries for a race to 40. In such instances, open teams will be determined based on team owner point standings, and an additional addendum, up to 6 open teams, coincidental number there, 3 for 2311, 3 for Front Row, up to 6 open teams will be eligible for starting grid positions based on highest ranked team owner point standing. So that pretty much locks in all 2311 cars and all Front Row Motorsports cars as the legal battle continues. And this is NASCAR's way of telling the 2311 and Front Row contingent, your injunction to stay as chartered cars doesn't matter because you're worried about missing races. Here's a rule that says you aren't missing any races, but you're still going to be racing as open teams this year.
It's the cat and mouse game, the legal cat and mouse game. Just, it always cracks me up because you can do it's like the military has a saying that's called commander's discretion, which is at the end of every regulation that's out there. It states commander's discretion. This can change at the command, which basically means all of this stuff that I just said, or all of the stuff that's in the book that we took hours and years to put together. Who cares? Throw it out because it's my discretion. I don't like the rule. I'm throwing it out. Or like these teams right there, look, we know what's going on. Our discretion, we're letting you in. So now the ball's in your court, guys. Are we not treating you fairly? Like, what's going on with this now? Because we're bending over backwards to keep you in there. What's going on?
Yeah, I do feel like this almost gets to a point where it might be the end of the legal talk for the rest of the year, which I know for a lot of us is probably, a sight for sore eyes to not have to hear about this anymore. Because that was the battle all year, was we want to make sure we're in these races. We're trying to be in all these races. We can't miss races or else our drivers can leave and our teams won't make any money. And it just would not be a good situation overall. This totally overwrites that. And I do think that NASCAR in their rule book, if you read through that whole monstrosity, I'm sure there's plenty of spots where it also says at NASCAR's discretion, same thing as at commander's discretion over there. Or as TK says, monopoly's discretion, which hey, we're not taking sides here, at least on the record. Makes the charters less valuable, in my opinion. That's the other wrinkle, I guess, you can see of this is now we could be in a situation where the charters could be sold, which I don't want to take the time to put on the tinfoil hat, but it was something that I hypothesized about. Okay, if they're locked in, if they're not having their charters locked in, NASCAR says that they have buyers from in and out of motorsports that could want to buy these charters. It could be interesting to see what happens if there's anything that happens as soon as this season in terms of charter movement.
In between media shopping for sponsors, we're going to get one of those charters. I guarantee you that'd be a nice little car, the in between media car.
That would be fun. I wonder what number we would run. We'd try to wrestle the Busch Light sponsorship away from Trackhouse. I know that much.
Easily, yeah.
We try to get that. That's the obvious one. They let you run 69. I don't know if Seth would approve that one. We got to hypothesize about this. We'll chat about this in the Discord if you want to. We'll form the in between media cup team. Let's figure out who we're hiring as a driver too. Lots of decisions there. If only we had that in our budget here at In Between Media, we would certainly have a good old time. We've got some predictions coming in terms of top fives and other bets for Indianapolis. Before we get to the Indy picks, we got to break down the track on the weekend for you, and we'll do that right now in the Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Speaking of Busch Light, that's our highlighted paint scheme of the week, the Busch Light Lime car for Ross Chastain. He has one of 39 entries for the Cup Series. I guess now I have to say the 30 chartered teams the 6 that are in between, no pun intended there, and 3 traditionally open cars. Jesse Love in the Beard 62, Josh Bilicki over in the 66, and Catherine Legg in the 78 car. The Xfinity Series, 38 total entries. The main 2 that you're going to be looking at, Kyle Larson in the 17, added to the schedule this week as he goes for another sweep, and Aric Almirola, good buddies, back in the number 19 car for JGR. Trucks are over at IRP, as I said, 35 entries there. The number 1 is Brent Cruz, the young buck in the Tricon car. Brendan Queen, Butterbean, as he's better known, in the Spire number 07 truck. Corey Day is in the 7 for Spire as well. Ross Chastain in the 44, and some truck news as well, that Daniel Hemric and Jack Wood over at MHR have swapped crews, which is kind of interesting. Hemric, of course, got that win at Martinsville to lock him in, but we haven't seen the runs go quite as well there. Things haven't really been good for Jack Wood either, though. I don't know if there's any insight on this or if you have any opinion on this crew swap here in the truck series. Hemric already locked in the playoffs. Maybe they feel that this Wood crew's a little better to chase for a championship.
Well, when you do the armchair quarterbacks every Monday, right, and you scroll through all the data and you look at all the tapes and all the film, they must have said Jack Wood's crew is maybe outdoing Hemric's a little bit. And not to say that Hemric's has been bad, because obviously he's had a pretty decent season so far this year, actually really ripping him off there. So maybe they just think if Jack Wood's crew was just that much better, it could give Hemric that much more of an edge as the truck series, their races are starting to wind down and now it's crunch time. So we really, really, really need to get these guys, going fast. And really that's what a new pit crew can do. We saw what happened. What was it? Busch's pit crew. Who swapped pit crews a couple of years ago? I'm trying to get there. Somebody,
side, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Gibbs last year or something. They swapped crews and it even got better.
Yeah, I kind of remember that. I don't remember off the top of my head. If anyone in the comments, of course, this happens all the time. Most famously, I think it was the 48 and 24 with Knaus and Letarte on top of the pit boxes, traded pit crews in the middle of a race. I don't remember if one had been knocked out and the other went over, or if it was Jimmy was fighting for the title and Jeff wasn't. I don't remember exactly what happened. But mid-race, I think it was Jimmy's pit crew that just were not holding up their end of the bargain. So Knaus walks over to Letarte and says, "Hey, can I have your pit crew for the rest of the race?" And I think it worked out pretty well. I'm assuming they made that swap permanent and led to, I'm sure that was in the 5 in a row run for Jimmy Johnson there. That was probably your best, most enjoyable time as a NASCAR fan.
Absolutely. I miss those days. I really do. But yeah, you can't have that magic every single week, but love it.
Yeah, they're certainly searching for that magic here. As we look at the weekend, too, it's almost magical because I feel like we've got 3 full days of activity, which is kind of old school, kind of what we like with all 3 series. On Friday, it starts off at noon with Xfinity practice. 1:05, you got Cup practice right after. 3:05 as you move over to Fox and IRP. I think it's on FS1. I don't remember. Truck practice and qualifying at 3:05 over from IRP. And the green flag at 8:17 p.m. for the Trucks T-Sport 200, 60, 60, and 80 over on the short track at IRP. Saturday, we're back to the Brickyard, 1 o'clock Xfinity qualifying, 2:35 Cup qualifying, and then the green flag at 4:50 for the Xfinity Pennzoil 250, stage lengths 30, 30, and 40. And on Sunday, the big show, 2:20 p.m. green for the Cup, Brickyard 400 presented by PPG, stage lengths 50, 50, and 60. I talked about the tradition earlier of how nice it was to be back at the Indianapolis Oval, and it's also nice that it's still called the Brickyard 400. They have PPG at the end there, of course, a Roger Penske sponsor at a Penske-owned track. But nice to keep the tradition of the oval. The road course was fun, but I like this being back to a crown jewel event, Ron.
I wasn't all that big of a fan of the road course there. Like I get it and I understood it, but now that we've got street courses, now that we've got all these things that we're introducing into the sport, and we have 6 road courses, I don't think we needed Indy's road course anymore. You're right. I think the oval made way more sense, and I think the fact that we're back at it makes me feel better about going to Indianapolis, because I just feel like you have to be at the oval there. It just has to be at the oval. The road course, like you said, is fun gimmick, but you got to be at the oval, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like you can't base too much of it on how the racing has been. Obviously, it wasn't the best in the previous gen car the last couple of years. Got a little better in the next gen last year. Still some kinks to work out, but it's almost, you don't want to take away that tradition. Daytona and Talladega are not the best races right now. We're not going to take away, I don't think, any of their 2 races off the schedule, nor are we going to take away any of these short tracks, I feel like, even though obviously there's big time work to be done on the short tracks. I don't think you're seeing either Bristol or Martinsville go away, and you're not throwing dirt on Bristol again anytime soon.
No, please don't throw dirt on Bristol again. I love innovation. I love trying things, but boy, I'm so glad that when they recognized the dirt wasn't working, we went back to the concrete again.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we move into the Indianapolis preview, some track facts. Been around since 1909. They've raced there pretty much every year since, with the Indy 500 save for a couple of years during World War II. First facility to call itself a speedway, so it really, really made the name there that now you see all over the country and the world. Also, the largest sporting facility in history. I was reading that just in the bleachers, you can fit 250,000 people in there. If you include the infield and everyone in the snake pit for the Indy 500 and stuff, gets up to 400,000. And if I recall correctly, there's a whole golf courses in the infield too, isn't there? This is a truly massive facility over there in a town called Speedway, Indiana. Certainly on the bucket list, I feel like, for any fan to get to this 2.5 mile big flat track, 9.2 degrees of banking in the turns. One of those places that really doesn't have any true primary comps. There's a reason why it's the most famous speedway in the world, is because there is nothing quite like this place. Although for the secondary comps, you can weigh in Pocono, unique ovals that you really can't compare anything to, that are long and they have big horsepower and all that stuff, which the big horsepower is also how you can throw in Michigan. I know in our model this week, as you can read tomorrow morning, where I preview how the model works and what all is put in there, Seth put in Indy stats as well as Pocono stats and omitted Michigan. Do you think Michigan's a good comp? How are you kind of looking to compare and handicap this Brickyard Oval with anything else, Rob?
Yeah, I do like Michigan to look at that, because it is that big horsepower like you were talking about, because this track, obviously it's made for speed, right? It's made for Indy cars, and those Indy cars go a couple hundred miles an hour, and it has to be that way for this track. And NASCAR obviously doesn't touch 200, but it's going to get pretty damn fast. And it really does handle like a Michigan, where that is a very fast track. And like you said, Pocono to a certain extent, but you can, and when you look at the finishing positions for a lot of these guys in the past that did run this oval, they're unique in their own right too, because some people run it well and they don't run any other course well. It's just a feel for some of these guys.
Yeah, and I feel like at Pocono in the corners, I know one of them is literally modeled after Indianapolis, but I feel like you're not going nearly as fast there, especially in that tunnel turn, as you would be. Or I think tunnel turn is the one modeled after Indy. Doesn't matter. The point is you kind of slow down a little more there, and I do like Michigan as a result there, even if it doesn't have kind of the same sort of comp in that sense. I like the big horsepower, and that's in a more traditional oval style instead of on a triangle there. And the other thing too, I feel like Indy and Pocono kind of got grouped together because they have been always so close to each other. This is maybe the furthest they've been spread apart in a while. I remember about 10 years old, 2008, you'll remember the Brickyard 400 that year. You could run about 10 laps on tires. One of the biggest, what shows, except for the winner, Jimmy Johnson. He had a good time. But I remember it was the next week that I was going to my first NASCAR race at Pocono, and Indianapolis the week before. I feel like maybe that kind of has contributed to the similarity as well, throwing in that "what have you done for me lately" that I so often like to throw in my card.
Yeah, and really, ultimately, too, with this track, since there's only been the one next gen, now there's even more. I don't know what to really think of this, because, even last year with the next gen era, we still don't know. I mean, we're still sort of feeling it out now in this world, because the last one was 2020 before they turned it into the road course. So yeah, I mean, we're learning a lot still as bettors and as fans of what to expect in the new era of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, still a lot to learn here. TK with a good point. Indy road course kind of got bettered by COTA anyway in terms of a long track with chaotic restarts, which we saw even more this year running the short course at COTA. A lot of road courses you can bring back or bring around. I feel like the Indy road course is one we can definitely leave on ice for the near future. As we head toward the trends in qualifying, I've also included previous stats as well, because like you said, one race on this track in the next gen, because in 2021 through 2023, we did run the road course. We had, of course, McDowell, Allmendinger get some wins there. In that race last year, Reddick was your pole sitter, and he finished second. So there's your pole stats. Reddick is the only active driver with an average starting position under 10, average starting position of 7th in 2 starts. When you expand that out a little bit more, Logano in 13 starts here, 10.769 average starting position. Keselowski in 12 starts is at 12.25. Larson has 7 starts here, average starting position 12.286. And Denny Hamlin, 16 starts, 12.625. So pretty much around the 10th average starting position there. Active pole winners here, of course, Tyler Reddick last year. Kyle Busch back-to-back poled it in 2017 and 2016. And then you had Denny Hamlin going all the way back to 2012. Also an active pole winner here. Again, lots of changes with the cars, but it's the same sort of oval. I don't want to say it's like riding a bike and it's exactly the same, but it's enough that I'm throwing in those stats anyway. Deal with it. In terms of poles apiece, Gibbs and Hemric are tied team-wise. They each have 5. Gibbs' last pole, though, was back in 2017 with Kyle Busch, as I mentioned. and HMS has not won a pole here since 2009. I think it was Mark Martin that year in the 5 car. Was the last Hemric pole winner. So it could be a case where you have a pole winner that might come from outside of these positions here. And there's no real favorite here. Reddick, an average of 7 in 2 starts, but everyone else kind of around 10th. It really opens things up for how qualifying could go on Saturday.
Yeah, and with Reddick, the way he's been lately and the way he's looked all over the place, I'm not even convinced that he's going to qualify well even in this race, even though he did it last time. And there's a lot of guys that did well on this track last year that you could just sort of say, well, yeah, but this year, the what have you done for me? Like you said, Elliot, is just taking him out of the conversation. So I think Reddick is one of those guys.
Yeah, that's a good point that we'll extrapolate on later, because I want to be cautiously optimistic about 2311, but I also have that same, what have you done for me lately? Can I really take this one race and really flesh it out to say that it's gospel? And I don't think that you can. As we move on to the race trends, active race winners, of course, Kyle Larson last year getting it done. Kyle Busch won in 2016 and 2015. Brad Keselowski also won this race 2018. The only 2 drivers to have ever won consecutively here, Kyle Busch, of course, 16 and 15, and Jimmy Johnson, 08 and 09. So maybe doesn't bode the best for Kyle Larson, as only 2 other guys have gone back-to-back. There's only been one first-time winner here, Paul Menard in 2011, one of the big feel-good wins. I feel like of that entire decade was Paul Menard getting it done at his home track with RCR. As we look at other qualifying stats, the pole winner has won 5 times here, which is the most often at 17.86%, and the top 6 starting position has won 16 out of 28 times here, 57.1% of the races. Starting near the front is going to be major. If you move that out a little further, front row, 25%, top 5, half the races, top 10, 64.29% of the races. Only 3 times, which is 10.71%, has the winner started outside the top 20. So we don't quite know who's going to win the pole, but we do know that you kind of have to be in that top 10 here to get that done. And I feel like it's kind of similar to the other ovals, but it really seems fleshed out to me here at Indianapolis as particularly bigger than the other tracks. Maybe it's that, or maybe I just don't do the trends enough, Rob.
Well, no, and I think that's exactly what you were going to say, because I was going to say that the size of this track makes it very difficult, right, to get a lot done if you're starting way in the back, and that's a lot of work to do. That's a lot of fast pit stops. It's a lot of strategy calls to get yourself closer to the front, because, as this gets strung out, it's 2.5 miles strung out. This is not a half a mile strung out. It's not even a mile strung out or a mile and a half strung out. It's 2.5 miles strung out, and it gets pretty dicey real quick if you can't get to the front.
Yeah, and that's exactly the next point I was going to make too, is you watch some of those highlights from those 2019, 2020 races. I think it was 19, had a late restart, I think, with 9 to go. And by the end of it, it had been spread out by 6 or 7 seconds at the front of the field. And that's with a car that people thought was easier to pass than this next gen, which everywhere at every track, every driver says, I can't pass. This is ridiculous. Why can't I pass? So that definitely makes starting up front very important. And we'll see how that continues on the oval. Like I said, your pole winner finished second, and Larson started fairly toward the front as well. I don't know if I have that stat here, but if I do, I'll read it off in a moment. Hemric Motorsports, though, they lead with 11 wins among 4 drivers. Of course, Larson last year. Jeff Gordon won this race 5 times. Jimmy Johnson won it 4 times. And then Casey Kane in 2017 was your Brickyard winner. Joe Gibbs Racing, or maybe Ty Gibbs, is second with 5 total wins here. Chevrolet also really enjoyed the Brickyard there in the mid-2000s. They won 12 straight from 2003 to 2014. Certainly a good run for Chevrolet there. A lot of those, of course, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson involved in there. They had a good time kissing the bricks. In terms of average finishes, Tyler Reddick and Christopher Bell, the only 2 who are active with a top 10 average finish. 5th place and an 8th place in 2 starts apiece as we move further down the board. Logano, of course, up there in average start, also up there in average finish, 13 starts, 12.615. Daniel Suarez was up there too, made 5 starts here, but an average finish of 12.8. I don't know that he's on our cards, but could be somebody to watch out for if Trackhouse is able to qualify him well, which of course has early in the year was not the case for Trackhouse. But if Suarez can qualify top 15, top 20, he could be in there for a top 10 bet. He's one that I'm going to keep an eye on post P and Q when we get to like Saturday evening, Sunday morning. Kyle Busch's average finish 12.824 in 17 starts and in-season challenge, 10th among active drivers in average finish in 5 career starts with a 17.2 is Ty Dillon. And his only career Xfinity Series win came right here at the Brickyard. So another layer there for the in-season challenge that'll be interesting to watch.
I do like the prediction that Ty is going to win the in-season challenge. I'm 100% behind that. If I were to set odds, it'd be minus 60,000 that he would definitely win. Which Ty am I talking about? Well, I'm with you, and I'll actually, I know you're going to talk about this later, but that's a fun little stat, and I think it kind of feeds into this whole in-season challenge drama that's shaped up as we get to the very end of it.
Yeah, it's been fun and certainly has not gone how we expected, but it'll be fun to watch for sure as the ties battle it out. Also important to note, this is our third crown jewel race of the year. We'll give you a little update on how those are going, just because it's fun. You know, drivers, obviously, they all want to win every race. Every driver wants to go out there and win every race. But to win one of these crown jewels, of course, we're talking about the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, the race the Brickyard, which, of course, was gone for a couple of years, and then the Southern 500 at Darlington that we'll get to in late August. Only 4 drivers in the history of the Cup Series have swept the crown jewels. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, as we just talked about. Dale Earnhardt did it, and as well as Kevin Harvick. They're the only 4 that have swept all of them. There are 15 active drivers with at least one crown jewel win. Denny Hamlin only needs this race to complete the crown jewel sweep and become the 5th. He's got his Daytona 500s as well as Coke 600 wins, as Southern 500 wins. He just needs the Brickyard. It has eluded him. I think it was that 2020 race running up front and blew a tire in spectacular fashion, if I remember correctly. Denny Hamlin has been kind of snake bit here. He just needs this one. Each of Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Larson, they only need the Daytona 500. They've already locked this one down as well as the others, but it's that pesky Daytona 500 that eludes them just as it eludes so many in the sport. Austin Dillon, too, is the next closest after those guys. He only needs this one in the Southern 500. After that, your multiple winners. Eric Jones has 2 Southern 500s, but none of the others. You have William Byron with 2 Daytona 500s and none of the others. It's a fun little thing to watch that, you know, they're not going to throw out odds on, okay, who's going to be the driver to hit the next crown jewel, but almost in the race within the race, the battle within the battle, when you start to put together these guys' resumes at the end of their career, winning these races is definitely super important for them.
And it's funny because when I was in Sonoma a couple of weeks ago and they were talking to Jimmy Johnson, he was being inducted into the Wall of Fame there. His only career road course win came at Sonoma. So it was, you know, one of those, it wasn't necessarily like a crown jewel race for Jimmy, but like he remembers, like you want to get wins at certain tracks. And I'm sure Sonoma was one of those ones that he really wanted to get, and you know, to finally get it was probably exciting to him, almost exciting as some of his other accomplishments that he had, maybe not a championship, but you know, these guys remember the races like that they win. They remember the Daytonas, the Southerns, the Cokes, and the Brickyards. Like they know that they're missing one and they go out and drive accordingly. So I think Denny is going to be, especially after last week, right, on high alert to try to get this done.
Yeah, and I think Denny Hamlin, this has been the 3rd or 4th time here that he's come here only needing this race to get that crown jewel sweep done. That'll certainly be fun to watch. And we know that Denny Hamlin is one of those guys that focuses on the race within the race, whether it's the in-season challenge. If he had made it past the first week at Atlanta and knocked out Ty Dillon, I almost kind of feel like, though, Denny's having more fun rooting for Ty Dillon than he would have been getting in there himself, having that Cinderella story. He's one of those guys, though, that focuses on the race within the race, and he definitely thinks this is important, too, getting this crown jewel sweep done.
And speaking of Denny Hamlin, I think it's time now to introduce to you our iFantasyRace.com asterisk mark driver of the week, which is Denny Hamlin. Was a contender to win last year at Indy, but finished an asterisk mark 32nd. In the race, Hamlin won stage 1. He finished 3rd in stage 2 and had a 7.7 average running position, leading 21 laps. He was running 5th on lap 156, but on lap 157, Busch had contact with the 11, crashed, which brought out the caution. And during the caution, Hamlin to duck down pit road for fuel and to check out the car, sent them all the way back to the pack. So, yep, one of the contenders to win, almost had that last ticket punched, but just as we saw last week with the pit stop, that'll screw you. And then also during the restart, he crashed out, resulting in a 32nd place finish. In terms of total speed rankings, though, Hamlin was the 2nd fastest on the track. We saw what he did last week. Here I am talking about years ago. He probably could have won last year's race too, but it's just one of those things. You have one little thing happen and you think, oh, it's no big deal. I had this one little thing happen. I got a great car. I'll get back up there. We just saw it with Chris Bell last week. Spins out, gets back up there, and spins out again, has something else happen. This is one of those where you get caught back in the pack, trouble not of your own doing, and your day's done, even if you had the best car. In this case, the 2nd best car ends up with a P32 there. That's your asterisk mark of the week. A couple others you could bring up here. I know Keselowski late in the race, as we'll talk about, but Hamlin was the pick this week because he just needs that one last crown jewel to get it done, and he's been so close so many times. We'll see if this is the week we can get it done. Before we get to the bets, though, one question from the comments I figured could be worth a chat.
And you're bringing up, do you think they, meaning Trackhouse, will stop putting resources into Suarez? That's something that I feel like everybody talks about when a driver announces or is, kind of announced on their own, not of their own doing, that they're not going to be with the team next year. The guys just don't care. And I feel like that you don't see that super often. Stewart-Haas Racing totally could have, that was the whole team, not just the team that would still be there without a driver. SHR last year, fighting to the end, winning a Southern 500 with Briscoe. You think back to Red Bull in 2011, I think that was. They knew they were going to be done, but they still get a win with Casey Kane there. I think that was the second to last race of the year. And I feel like with Trackhouse too, they're not really a team that, I don't know that it would benefit them to take resources away from a Suarez and put them toward Chastain or SVG, maybe in the playoffs if Suarez doesn't win his way in. But I just don't see that happening with Trackhouse. They're going to want to make sure they're on the top of their game for when whoever their new driver is, we kind of know who that is, but whenever their new driver comes in, they want to be at the top of their game.
What people tend to forget too sometimes, there's so much money at stake based on finishing positions, right? Why would you tank one of your drivers? I get that there's proprietary knowledge. I get that there's so many guarded secrets, but the guy's already been a part of your team for what new things?
He was the inaugural driver at Trackhouse.
That's what I'm saying. What new stuff could you unveil that would be like, oh, I can't let him see this and risk you not getting a better finish in the owner's position, that extra money for when Connor Zilisch comes in and takes over the ride. And now all of a sudden you got him in a much better position than if you're tanking yourself by just taking information away from one of the drivers that's been so loyal to you over the course of your entire existence.
Let's not forget, too, he's still got 5 races, just like anybody else who's not locked in, to go win a race, lock himself into the playoffs, put all 3 of their cars into that playoffs, which, of course, big-time money for Justin Marks and everyone involved there in the owner points. And you're right, even the difference between, say, he doesn't make the playoffs and he's battling for 21st in the standings. Big difference between 21st and 22nd. And, every position counts. It's a little more money. It's a little more prestige. It's a little something that makes everybody look a little bit better at the end of the year. And of course, once you get to the playoffs, maybe you have a situation where, okay, we know Suarez isn't going to, if he's not in the playoffs, we know he's not going to be who we're trying to have win this race. We're going to be focusing on Ross. We're going to be focusing on SVG. When Shane gets knocked out in the round of 16, then they throw it all to Ross if he's in. And then you kind of, it's almost, I'm almost throwing on the tinfoil hat here, even still kind of talking about it. It's definitely something that we're not expecting from Suarez. Definitely not in the next 5, because we know that everybody who doesn't have a win is going to be going all in to try to make the playoffs here. And that starts this week in Indianapolis, as we'll go ahead and crack open the bets for the week in the parking garage props. In terms of what we thought of the books this week, it feels like one of those weeks, and maybe call me spoiled from all the road course odds and everything, the Atlanta odds, everything like that. Felt like a really basic week and was kind of hard to find value this week.
Yeah, and especially when you look at how the races have shaken out lately, the books sort of said, well, we're going to play this one close to the vest. I think they probably got burned a little bit by the road courses, definitely got burned by some of the super speedways that they got. And I know that there was a lot of folks that took them pretty good over the last few weeks. And so I think this week they're like, okay, we're back at an oval. We can tighten up a little bit again. And like you said, I mean, it was tough to find a lot of good things to bet on, in my opinion. The top 10 numbers weren't all that attractive. And, I think the books, like I said, we're taking they're letting an exhale out right now after a crazy couple of months.
And it probably is a good week to do that because the chaos will only ramp up. I feel like Indy may be the most traditional track that we have left before we get into the playoffs here. And in those kind of races where it's, the book's kind of taking a breath, we've got some of this traditional stats out there. Maybe there's not a lot out there. It really feels like a Kyle Larson week to me. It feels like these guys and this team have been away from victory lane for too long. They have a whole, I think, 10 races or something without going to victory lane. That's an eternity for this 5 team with how they've run, I feel like. And of course, Larson and Indianapolis have had a complicated relationship the last couple of years. Didn't quite get done what he needed to get done on either side of the double, to the point where he's no longer interested. Crashed out of Indy this year, raced all of Indy last year, but then couldn't get in the car for the Coke 600. So the double didn't quite work out there for Larson, but came back after the disappointment of last year and won the race, bringing back that sort of special orange flare in the paint scheme this week, the McLaren flare and everything like that, bringing that back for Indianapolis. I think it'll really fire him up and fire this team up. I do also have this. I have this standalone, but I also have it parlayed with his Xfinity outright over at Caesars at plus 1050. which is not a bad number either. I feel like we know in the Xfinity series, Larson's on record as saying, I want to go out there and I want to whoop everybody and I want to embarrass people. And that certainly could be something that we see this weekend. Not going to stop us from other Xfinity bets, but still. The model this week, as we look at it, again, you'll see the preview of the top 10 and how it's all breaking down tomorrow morning in my article that comes out on the site in-betweenmedia.com. And the model this week has what I call the superior six. The top six in the model are all in the high to mid 80s. And then you go down to seventh and it's 67%. Gigantic drop. But those six guys, which include Larson at fourth, are the consensus top six oval drivers in the series. So that also kind of gives me the thought of, okay, it's going to be a fairly chalky week. Larson could very well be the best car to the point where I'm betting on him here. Like I said, has won this race last year and has got a little bit of that mojo back. It's been a summer slump by Larson standards, a couple fifths, a couple eighths, a couple bad finishes. Dover was his first top five in the last six races. That's ovals and road courses. I'll split those stats up a lot tonight. But ovals and road courses, no top fives in six races before that top five, a P4 last week at Dover. A little bit strategy helped, but a little bit just Hemric and Gibbs ran super well. Larson at plus 550. It almost feels like a generous-ish outright for Larson this week, and it's where I'm going, and it's a squad ride as well, Ron.
Yeah, you had it in there already, and I typed it in the doc. Squad ride on Larson, because here's the thing, and there's sometimes when you analyze numbers and you sit there and you pour over all of the stats, and sometimes it's like, yeah, but there's that intangible, right? And with Kyle Larson, this is that gut handicap that you're just like, all right, like you said, it's been a long time. It's been too much. He's been in a slump. Maybe last week started to kick the funk out of it. I know he didn't dominate. I know he wasn't the fastest car out there, but that finish was enough to give that 5 team a little bit of hope that, hey, maybe we found something. And lest we not forget, Elliot, our friends over at iFantasy Race, Ryan, has got this great NASCAR 2025 season-to-date total speed rankings heading to Indianapolis. We're over here saying and putting an epithet on Kyle Larson's season already. He's number 2 on this list as far as the total speed ranking is concerned. It's William Byron, and it's him, right? Then it's Reddick, then it's Elliott, then it's Bell. He's still fast. Like, that's not the question. The only question is putting the finishes together with the speed, right? And then when you look at the conventional track speed rankings, Kyle Larson is in 4th right now behind Blaney, Byron, and Hamlin. So that 5 car has not lost speed. What it's lost is the ability to capitalize on that speed. And if this track is any indicator, I mean, Kyle Larson won here already, right? He could do it again. And I'm just feeling like this is, like you said, a Kyle Larson type of a week where everybody's counting him out. Everybody's just already saying, well, Kyle Larson's washed, but he's still fast and he's still Kyle Larson. I still think this could get it. I had to convince Cody Elliott that this was the case because he wasn't sold on it.
Yeah, that's interesting. But, I mean, it has not been the best of the last little bit. I think ever since he went and ran that Indy 500, crashed out while leading at Charlotte, and then since then, very un-Larson-like. But it's not a slump by any other driver standards. It's a Larson-type slump, which I'm going to mention another Jimmy Johnson reference. I'm sorry I'm not pandering to you. There's just a lot that relates to Jimmy in Indianapolis and in this show. We would see that where Jimmy would lock himself in early into the playoffs. In the old system, you get a couple wins, you run well enough in points, you're fine. In this system, Larson wins 3 races before the middle of May. You're locked in beyond all shadow of a doubt. Maybe you try some other stuff. Maybe you do this, that. Maybe the pressure's just not on. Okay, we've got 3 wins. We're not feeling like our car's the best today. Not that they ever mail it in. That's not what I'm trying to say. But there's some weeks, maybe you don't go balls to the wall. Maybe you don't go 150% to go out and try and win every week. Maybe that's been Larson the last few weeks. But I feel like it's the Indianapolis connection as well. And having that good mojo back with the top 5 at Dover and the extra laps in the Xfinity race. He'll be feeling good, probably opening up the can of whoop 'em on Saturday in the Xfinity race. All signs point to the 5 this week, I feel like.
I agree.
If it's not Larson, though, I do feel like we have some other things you can look at. We're both kind of on the same page here, but yours is a little more specific. So we'll start with your other outright here, Ron.
Yeah, you want to talk about a guy that by a lot of driver standards is not slumping or is a slump, I guess, Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney, we've seen have so much trouble over the last few weeks, right? We saw him crash. We saw him get caught up in bad pit strategy. He's got an average finish this season of 18th, which for a former champion is not something you want to see, right?
Last year's champion's average finish was like 17th, though. So
yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
Yeah, but that's odd year Joey Logano. You can't even count that.
Yeah.
But another guy, again, that is coming off of a very solid finish at Dover, an 8th place finish. But here's the thing with Ryan Blaney. He started 31st in that race and drove his way to an 8th place finish. You want to talk about giving a guy hope, right? The winner of the Nashville race, the 3rd place driver at Pocono, right? This guy we know has speed and we know he can get it done. But the problem is he just hasn't been able to put it all together again and get himself into victory lane since Nashville. And for Ryan Blaney and that 12 team, that's a kick in the nuts. They need to have Blaney doing better. They need to have him in those post-race interviews saying, yeah, we had a really fast 12 hot rod out here today. And we're looking forward to victory lane after victory lane after victory lane. Plus 750 for him. That's a very long shot, right? That's I know it's not the longest shot, but for a 12 car on this particular track, he finished 3rd here last year, right? 3rd place in 2024. He's got a 7th place finish as well as an 11th place finish in 2018 and 2019. Obviously, yes, not the next gen era, but I think if we're going to take away the fact that last year he was able to finish in 3rd on this track in the first race of the next gen, got to think that he can improve a couple spots, especially given the fact that he maybe has a little bit of momentum off an 8th place finish at Dover. So I like Ryan Blaney. If it's not Larson, I think Blaney could get it done.
Yeah, I think this is a very fair number for Blaney heading into this place. He's got the good finishes there. And all year long, the story with Blaney is he maybe has better speed than anybody else in the field, but it's just managing the lockdown finishes. We were a little worried about him earlier in the year. He's able to get the win at Nashville and all but lock himself into the playoffs, being in a good point spot. But Blaney, one of those guys, I've had a championship future on him since before Daytona. He's one of those guys that the speed is there. You just need to put the runs together. Indianapolis, definitely a place that very well could happen. I'm going to expand this out a little bit because I have a number on the Ford outright at plus 250 over on Caesars. Before Larson last year winning it in the next gen, the Blue Ovals won the last 3 here prior to that when you had Keselowski, Harvick, and somebody in the middle, probably Harvick again, for all I can remember. Plus, Roger Penske literally owns the place now. This was part of him buying IndyCar, was Roger Penske's company owns the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So you know that each of Blaney, Logano, and Cindric, they have that expectation on them. They have it on them for racing for the captain and racing for a good team, the best Ford team in the sport right now. But they throw those little extra things in on big-time days for Roger Penske. Of course, we know they can't push the envelope because there's been a lot of controversy with the Penske cars, but right up into that envelope, Blaney, Logano, and Cindric are going to be intriguing. Brad Keselowski, a guy who late in the race last year had a really good shot. Buescher and Priest, also some sneaky little dark horses here for the Mustangs. Not quite as long as I would want for a manufacturer. Normally I jump on these when there's one that's so far long for really no good reason. This is one that I wish the number was a little longer, but I'm also more confident in this one than I am when I normally jump on these manufacturer longer shots.
Yeah, and for Ford too, like you said, that's the Blaneys of the world, right? And Logano can get it done. We know he can win some races. Josh Berry, right? He won earlier in the season too. He can take Wood Brothers car to the checkered flag and take it home. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting Fords out there to speculate on, and obviously plus 250 is a decent enough number for one of the outrights because obviously Chevy's going to be heavy. Toyota's obviously, we talked about how good JGR and Hemric are. So yeah, I think taking a little sprinkle on Ford just to sort of cover yourself if you're betting on a Larson or betting on a Hamlin, and one of those other guys comes across the finish line. I think 250 is a good price for that.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Chevy was kind of around plus 135, Toyota kind of around plus 175. You guys can call me out if you see the numbers differently, but I think Ford at plus 250, decent enough number for sure for an outright. As we move into the placement props, I was on Larson for the outright, have a little bit of a Ford sprinkle here. This day feels like a William Byron top 5 kind of day too. It feels like I need a relatively safe bet that's probably going to hit. I went short card, swung and missed on most of them last week. I don't think Byron's going to have race winning speed. We really haven't seen it from Byron lately. We almost haven't seen it most of the year. I mean, he got locked in with the Daytona 500. They haven't won since, and it's just kind of been the typical Byron of we're going to run kind of near the front. We're going to kind of bungle a couple of races like they did at Darlington. The strategy didn't work out, but they're still going to have enough speed to run up there. It seems like a win type of day for Larson, a top 5 type of day for Team 24. His only decent finish here was a P4 in 2019, crashed out of a couple others, ran like 15th on one of the other ones. But it's the what have you done for me lately also for Byron. 5 top 5s in the last 9 total races, 6 top 5s in the last 8 oval races. You want to almost say summer slump for Byron, and there have been a couple of moments that haven't been great, but the consistency with the 24, William Byron, Rudy Fugle, Hendrick Motorsports, it's been there. Even if it's quietly been there, it's been there. Plus 170 for a top 5 again. One of those, maybe a 2-to-1. I'd like it a little more. But, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, Rob.
Yeah, we would. And I would not have to wonder why I've got a handful. No, just listen, with William Byron, it's just a matter of, that obviously it's the same camp as Elliot, it's the same camp as Larson. These guys, week after week after week, I know it seems like we repeat names a lot, but if you look at the standings, if you look at the overall finishes on this, of course the same names pop up, and Byron's one of them. And top 5 number for him. Yeah, you'd like it to be a little bit more, but of course you're not going to get that because William Byron can always burn a book, much like Kyle Larson can always burn a book, much like Chase Elliott can always burn a book. So yeah, you got to, you're here, you're in this to cash tickets. You're not really necessarily always happy with what you get, but if you cash a ticket, I think you're happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, and 3 out of the 4 Hemric cars, pressure's off for a couple more weeks. You got 3 out of the 4 locked into the playoffs. You can kind of mess around with speed a little bit, and if you hit on something, it can be a pretty good day. One of those guys that, he's going to need a win to get in the playoffs. I don't think he gets that done. But this is my favorite bet of the week, and it's Brad Keselowski in that bodyguard, big-ass fans number 6 for the top 10, minus 105 via Caesars. And I like this one so much, I used a 50% profit boost that Caesars gave us here in Pennsylvania yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't remember. I used a 50% profit boost on this as well at the minus 105. Last year, I've been talking about it. He led 35 laps late in the race. The fuel gamble didn't quite pay off. If I remember correctly, it was a late caution that kind of screwed him. Had to come down pit road and really lost his chance to win there. Ended up 21st, I think. For his career, 2018, he won the Brickyard 400, of course. 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s total. And if you use Pocono as a good comp, he's been great there the last 2 years. P7 and P9, and he led 20-plus laps in each. And he could have been better this year if he had pitted just when pit road was open instead of when it was closed. Come on, Brad. He'll do that this week too. And also, what have you done for me lately for Brad? That includes that Pocono race from about a month ago. 4 top 11 finishes in the last 5 races for Brad, and 5 top 10s in the last 6 ovals. So another guy, I would not have expected those stats if I hadn't gone and looked at Keselowski. It's one of those where the season has not gone his way by any stretch of the imagination. But it's another one of those quiet consistency things that is maybe getting this 6 car and RFK in general just a little closer to race winning speed. I feel like if you're going to have an RFK car win this race or any one of the few remaining before the playoffs, I do feel like it's not going to be the 6 car. But I feel like Keselowski is going to be up there with Buescher or with Priest this week, up there in for a top 10 run with that 6 car.
I know Cody keeps saying that I'm trying to retire guys like Brad Keselowski and some of the older drivers in the garage, but there is still obviously some speed out of Brad Keselowski. And I wonder sometimes though, if you don't really mind if you're the slowest one in your garage because you are the team owner anyways. And if guys like Chris Buescher and Ryan Preece are doing well, right, and turning in top 10 finishes, then maybe the pressure's off of you and you know that the team's in good hands and you can just go out and run a race. So maybe that does translate into a track that he's good at and just a nice little solid top 10 finish for Brad Keselowski this week.
Yeah, the old horse getting out of the stable a couple more times here. You want to talk about trying to retire drivers if we throw on the silly season tinfoil hat for a minute. There's a kid in the truck series that's led like 30% of the laps this year that's still in the truck series for some reason that, his manufacturer doesn't have a cup ride for him. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Not related to the betting spots. So I like Keselowski for a top 10. I've got another, but we'll throw it to your placement prop of the week first.
It is July the 24th. It is 6:30 Pacific time. Mark this because I am giving out Ty Gibbs as a top 10 car at plus 140 at ESPN Bet. No, you did not hear that incorrectly. And for those of you who have stopped listening to any of our shows because of all of my Ty Gibb hate, first of all, shame on you. I've tried to tell you guys time and time again that it's not necessarily based on anything other than performance, right? Well, now when the performance starts to turn around, that's when you start to turn your strategy around. And guess what, guys? That's what's happening. And Ty Gibbs should not be plus money for a top 10. I get that last year he was 23rd on this track, but that sophomore slump was hitting him hard. The junior jinx is still hitting him hard, yes. However, in the last 3 races, that jinx has started to turn itself around. A 2nd at Chicago, a 7th at Sonoma, a 5th at Dover. I get it. It's a road course, a couple of road courses, street course, and Dover, right? The concrete mile. But if you go to Michigan, which is what I said earlier was a comparable track, in my opinion, a 3rd place finish there, 11th place in Mexico, 14th at Pocono. Ty Gibbs, as much as it pains me to say, can be a top 10 car. He's in a good enough ride that he should be a top 10 contender each and every week. Well, now over the last 3 weeks, he's been a top 10 contender, a legit top 10 contender. Let's not get overzealous now. His average finish is still 17. So it's not as if he's out here turning fast laps and winning races, but a top 10 finish out of a JGR car, and a guy like Ty Gibbs that should be able to get it done. Plus 140 in this market of top 10s, I think is a good enough number to speculate on him to get it done for a 4th straight week as a top 10 car.
I agree. And this bet made so much sense to me. I didn't even realize that, this is a monumental occasion for Rod to bet on Ty Gibbs. It's not a Hocevar, though. We'll know you're gone the next time you bet on Hocevar, although I think a couple weeks ago you did. But in any case, for Gibbs, I don't even think you can say it's the in-season challenge that's really running him forward, because he seems kind of nonchalant about the whole thing. It just so happens that his better runs of the season and this team really finding some speed has coincided with, hey, we're still alive in this bracket thing. And what has really helped him too, Chris Gabehart coming up on the box to help out a rookie crew chief there, Tyler Green, I believe is his name, helping out the 54 car. Regardless of how close he gets to running into guys on pit road, we know that he's got some speed, maybe a little too much speed in the pits there. We'll look down there a little bit, Ty, but definitely a guy that's intriguing to bet on. I like Toyota speed as well, my other top 10 of the week. This is a little bit that I'm throwing in on 2311, the Bubba Wallace top 10 at plus 125 on BetMGM. I'm gambling on 2311, which is not the safest thing to do, especially in these times. The what have you done for me lately is iffy. But if you look at Bubba Wallace in Indianapolis, I like what I see a lot. Last year, led 26 laps, ends up P5. Of course, strategy helps with some of that, but had a fast enough car. What really benefits me with, or what I'm really liking with Bubba Wallace, is the 2 races before that with Richard Petty Motorsports or whatever iteration of that. He was in the 43 car, P3 and P9, right before we were on the oval. And top 7 finishes for Bubba Wallace in 3 of the last 5 ovals in 2025. The 23 car was fast early in the year, had a little bit of a middle stretch that wasn't so good, is starting to find that speed again. Indianapolis, a better track than I expected for Wallace. I don't have his model number in front of me, but I'm assuming he's higher than I would think in the Model 2. He's not in that top 6, but I believe is just under that. And he's a guy in that Chumba Casino 23 that I feel like will run faster than we think this week. And at plus 125, like you said, in this top 10 market, it's a number that I like to see.
Well, and if you look at his stats overall too, and especially on this track, they just pop, right? I mean, it's like, wow, Bubba Wallace has been really good on this track, and he's actually been gaining a little bit of steam. Of the 2 right now, Elliot, I don't think you'd be too far off to say that I think Bubba Wallace has the better momentum heading into this than does Tyler Reddick. And maybe that's just the eye test, because if you dig in the numbers, it probably tells you a little something different. But, Bubba Wallace seems to be the more steady of the 2 right now. And on this particular track with his track record heading into this, I'm a lot like the Ty Gibbs thing. A plus money shouldn't be where he's at. And you got to swoop in on this one to grab the value.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I had a profit boost for this one too with Bubba Wallace. And I think with 2311, who's got the better chance to go out and win a race and have race winning speed? It's probably Reddick. Who's got a better chance to consistently go out and rip out some top 10s all in a row there, run pretty much where you're running most of the day and not blow it? It's probably the 23. If you're looking at who's just out there to collect a paycheck, it's a 35. We're not talking, I don't know if any of us have bet on Riley Herbst all year. That poor kid. He's learning. It's his rookie year. He's running like a rookie. And I feel like Riley Herbst, though, kind of unfair too, to have your other rookie go out there, win 3 races and be maybe the best stock car road racer in history. But that's neither here nor there. Either. As moving to the matchups, we were talking a little bit about Ty Gibbs. I got to go against him, though. I got to go Ty Dillon over Ty Gibbs, plus 240 on Bet365. Best number I could find him at to win the in-season challenge. I'm finally drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm finally on board with the Cinderella story, with the devil magic, with whatever you want to call it with this 10 team. I think they're going all the way. We know they're taking it seriously. We know that every single week he's been the story. Ty Dillon unexpectedly goes out there and wins. And that has been every single week through this challenge. Going out there and, the first 2 weeks it fell into his lap. Goes out there, beats a Hemric car, gets into the next round, goes out there, races a 42, hard all day at Dover, ends up getting a free pass at an opportune time to trap the 42 a lap down and go out there and get it done. And I think he was like 20th last week. That's a pretty good run for Ty Dillon and the second colleague team. They're taking it seriously. They're trying to put the speed into these cars. This kid is trying the best he can to get out there and go get it done. And the odds are stacked against him again. We just talked about all the momentum Ty Gibbs has. We talked about how he's got a top-tier crew chief helping him out as a team strategist on the box now. We know that the colleague cars are not quite as good as the Joe Gibbs racing cars, but I have enough faith that I don't think that the ties are going to be a million miles apart throughout this race. There's a very good chance they both could run 15th all day. And I feel like if you have a situation where they're near each other, I feel like the 10 car is going to really play this race. as if we're going out there to beat this guy and we don't care about anybody else on the racetrack. While Ty Gibbs is going to run it, obviously trying to win races, get in the playoffs on points, and that sort of thing. And just playing that strategy different enough. We've seen how the strategy goes at Indy, especially when you have these late race shenanigans. We know how the strategy goes, and it could be that strategy of we are trying to beat this guy and this guy only that I think is going to help the 10 team if the situation occurs where they're running close enough together to take advantage of that play.
I know everybody says that $1 million is a lot of money, and it is, right? But if you walked up to Dillon and offered him $1 million and then Ty Gibbs, like who would get more excited over it? And that's really what you end up doing. Ty Dillon's probably be like, man, that's $1 million. Let's go. Whereas Ty Gibbs is like, well, I could go make $1 million by going and drinking a Monster and saying Monster is great, right? Ty Dillon doesn't have that same opportunity. So I feel like he's going to race a little harder for it.
Yeah, all due respect to Seabest and all of Ty Dillon sponsors, but I don't know if they're just handing him $1 million for drinking water out of a Monster water bottle either. But
No, they're not.
It's fun and it's nice. I mean, Ty Dillon has said it's so exciting to have people talking about his team when normally we wouldn't give two hoots about what Ty Dillon is doing. Hasn't won a race, not getting close to winning a race. I think they're in that bottom 10 in the series in points. Not the season they wanted to have, even if it's a season we all kind of expect them to have. But that's neither here nor there. We're excited for Ty Dillon. We're glad this happened for him. And I think he's gone out there to take the win in this 10 car. And it's going to be an exciting one. I lost my other point. So let's just move on to your matchup for the week.
So I am going to, so I think we decided that the F from KFB moved over to Denny Hamlin. So it's Denny DFH. So, but still KB, a good driver in and of his own right. And I'm going to take him over Ross Chastain -120. I'm going to read you the finishes for Ross Chastain over the last few weeks since his 6th place finish at Michigan. 16th at Mexico City, 26th at Pocono, 33rd at Atlanta, 10th at Chicago, cool, but 24th at Sonoma, 33rd at Dover. That one team trending in the absolute wrong direction. And this is not necessarily a track in which I think there's a get right on this. Yeah, he led 8 laps in 2024, but he ended up finishing 15th after starting in 28th. In the 77 car a couple of years ago when they were racing on the oval, he finished 17th. In the 15, 22, and 26 for an average finisher of 20. Well, we talked about Kyle Busch and how great he's been on this track in his career, right? 12 top 10 finishes in 17 starts, 5 top 5s, 2 wins. He had a string of poles between 2016 and 2018 of 3 of those, back-to-back wins in 2015 and 16, an 8th place finish in 2018, a 6th place finish in 2020. Granted, he had a 25th place finish last year, but boy, Elliot, he was just hot garbage last year. Hot garbage this year for the most part, right? I mean, I kind of poo-pooed somebody saying their 17th place finish, average finish this year was not great. That was Ty Gibbs. But Kyle Busch is kind of the same thing, however. 11th place at Dover last week, 10th place at Sonoma, 5th at Chicago. Something's happening in 8th place in Michigan. Kyle Busch hasn't forgotten how to drive. That's the one thing about I think everybody can take away. He hasn't forgotten how to drive. Somewhere the finishes. It's like Kyle Larson, right? When you're a slumping driver, you'd kill for an 11th place finish at a track. And I think Kyle Busch just needs that little bit of oomph. And like I said, he's been good at this track. I think he's going to be good again this week. I think it doesn't need to be that good, just good enough to beat Ross Chastain. And I think he can do that.
Yeah, I do like this bet, but I will play devil's advocate for it in that the big story last week with RCR was Richard Childress coming on both the 3 and 8 radios post-race and saying, we got to get our guys better cars. It's just not acceptable. And that's even with the 8 running 11th. Chastain was kind of around that spot a lot of the day. It was running better than when he crashed late in the race there. And I know there's a couple asterisk marks thrown in there. Pocono, he was caught with Byron on a strategy that just did not work out there late in the race. Chastain at times was top 10, top 15 in that race. Was not probably a 26th place car that day or whatever you said he finished. But that's just devil's advocate, though. I do feel like Kyle Busch over Chastain is probably the bet here as we move to the specials here. This is my least confident of the week. Even number to win at +145 via Caesars. It's one that I was like, maybe I should kind of throw this in as a hedge and threw down on it and then was like, oh, this maybe wasn't my best bet. But you're going to have those. We know Larson and Hamlin are the favorites. That brings this to the plus money number. But I feel like you have some realistic winners here. The 6, the 12, the 20, the 22, and the 24, even though there's multiple guys that I'm on record in this show saying, I don't think this guy's going to win the race. You have some dark horses, the 2, the 8, who we just talked about, the 48, the 54, and the 60. All in all, that's not quite as many even number cars as I kind of thought, but I went with it anyway, and it's one of those that you just roll with the vibes and see what happens, Ron.
Well, and these card number bets too, you obviously know that there's the favorites like Kyle Larson out there, Denny Hamlin, that are both odd number cars, but you're betting on somebody to sneak through and get a win like that if there's a little bit of craziness at the end of the race and people stay out and the 9 car stays out and and whatever, and you get wrecked behind you. So yeah, that's really what you're betting on. And I like plus money on these car number bets because it always tends to be the better side of it sometimes.
One of those that you'll be happy if it hits. And yours too, I think, is a better spin of the roulette wheel for the week.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the most laps led by any driver, and I'm going to take the under 55.5. Now, again, we haven't had a lot of next-gen races on this track. However, the one that we did last year, the most laps led by one driver was 40, and that was Tyler Reddick. After that, Brad Keselowski with 35. Then we have Bubba Wallace with 26 laps, 21 by Denny Hamlin, 16 by John Hunter, and so on and so forth. So 40th was the cap. And Elliot, here's the thing. I mean, last week, yeah, we saw Chase Elliott run away with 6,000 laps led at Dover, but that was a mile track, right? And that was a very long race. This is not as many laps. And these guys, with the lead changes that they have, with the pit strategies that they play, fuel mileage may come into this too as well. And so you may have to pit it at weird spots and may not lead very many. There were 10 cautions last year for 34 laps as well, 18 lead changes in this race. So I think we may see something similar. And I think we don't get somebody that goes out and leads all of these 160 laps. And we get somebody that doesn't get to 55.5.
Yeah, I like this one just because the stages too, they throw in so much in terms of the strategy that 55.5 is a lot to ask. With the amount of laps here. So I definitely like taking the under as well. It's a glass of juice worth drinking. As that's it for our cup bets for the evening. As we move to Xfinity, my outright this week, another one of those where I don't want to say it's a painful bet because Aric Almirola at an 8-1 is a pretty decent bet, especially because last year he was in the running late. It's one of those that you just kind of expect it to happen, and it's one of those kind of inevitable things. I think this is a box he wants to check to. Of course, it's not a crown jewel at the Xfinity level, but it's one of those, you want to get a win at Indianapolis if you can. His last cup race here in 2020, he was P3. So we know he knows how to get around the place. In his last 3 races in this 19 and 2025, a P6, a P7, and a P2 for the 19 Young Life car. Almirola at 8-1. I think this is a good number to play this week, but I don't hate your outright either.
Oh, absolutely don't hate this outright. If it works, you got to keep going back to it, right? And what's to keep Connor Zilisch from winning his 3rd race in a row? We saw Christopher Bell do it earlier as well. And for Connor Zilisch, look, it's a whole lot of momentum, and it's a whole lot of him being able to figure out how to run these ovals and how to actually be pretty good. Because we saw earlier in the season, boy, he just did not. I mean, he crashed out of Daytona, finished 27th. He finished 34th in Atlanta, came back with that win at Coda. And then, because they're running the drafting package, by the way. I know we said that at the beginning of the show, but just to remind you that they're running the drafting package. And they've seemed to figure it out. 4th place in Atlanta for Connor Zilisch. So that's a good finish there. And to me, I feel like this is it, man. You're giving him a good run. He's on a run now of 3 of the last 5 races he's won. And then 4 of the last 5 races he's finished inside of the top 3. And then go back a couple more. Nashville 2nd, Charlotte 2nd, Mexico City 5th. That's a hell of a string of finishes. This kid's figuring out ovals, and he's pretty damn good. And 7-1, I know he's going to win his 3rd in a row, but I like that number.
Yeah, that's a great number for sure. And like you said, I don't think the kid's been outside the top 5 since he had to miss those races at Talladega. And even at Talladega, he was leading when he got turned. So Zilisch has it figured out. I don't know why I didn't have a championship number on him. I got to go look at what those are for sure now on this 88. Because it could be the Chase Elliott type of year that I was saying that he very well could have had at the beginning of the year in that, oh, hey, he's a rookie. He hasn't done this full time before, but goes out there and smokes the field anyway, as we look at that there. In the truck series, we each got an outright and a matchup. I'll go with our outrights first. I'm thinking Layne Riggs at a plus 430 on FanDuel. The number was closer to 350 at other spots, a little bit lower there. Hyman, Majeski are the 2 favorites, as Majeski's won the last 2 years there, I believe. Layne Riggs, though, we know he knows how to get around a short track. We know he ran top 5 here last year. He's got the win already under his belt at Pocono. And we know he knows what he's doing. And I like the front row car here. And you're outright, though. We talked about him earlier, a longer number and a number that would be more fun to see hit for sure than a plus 430.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you look at the race here, Ty Majeski's won this the last 2 seasons, but right behind it has been the 19 truck of Christian Eckes in 2nd place in both of that. And driving the 19 truck this year is one Daniel Hemric, and I'm definitely thinking that 19 truck sure knows its way to the front. And if a piano falls on Daniel Hemric, then 25-1 for Hemric to win is not bad. I mean, listen, his average finish this year, Hemric, is 8.5, right? He's got 11 top 10 finishes in 15 starts, 7 of those top 5s. He won at Martinsville. This is a guy that can get this done. He won at Martinsville. Like I said, that's a short track, right? He ended up finishing 3rd at Rockingham, not necessarily a short track, but he finished 4th at North Wilkesboro, another short track. Yeah, I think Daniel Hemric in that 19 truck is a good marriage, and I think 25-1 is too long of a number for him to be at.
It's too long of a number for the truck. It's just still hard for me to get on board with betting a Daniel Hemric outright. Because I know he's got the Xfinity title and got the win there. He's got a truck win this year, but there's still a little bit that this guy is still the guy who can never win anything, even though he does have a win this year in this truck. But I think at a 25-1, it's too long a number, and I like hopping on it. Another one that's too long a number, my matchup, this is probably my second favorite bet of the week, the Keselowski top 10 being my favorite, and Grant Enfinger over Chandler Smith. This is plus 130 on Bet365. Enfinger won this race in 2022 and led 71 laps last year. He's another kid. He's another cat. I said kid. He's a veteran of the truck series. I want to give him the respect he's earned. Sir Grant Enfinger. He's been really good here. Chandler Smith just doesn't have the experience. A P18 in his only start here. Started second, but a P18 in a pretty good truck. He was in the KBM truck that year. Not really what you want to see. Enfinger, this is one of those where they think the front row equipment is going to be that much better than CR7 when it just isn't the case. I feel like Enfinger in the top 5, top 6 of this race, pretty much a slam dunk where I don't have that feeling on Chandler Smith in the 38.
Yeah, you look at the finishes for Enfinger, and that's it. It's 5th, it's 4th. This is a great driver on this track, and I love this matchup as well. So, a matchup I like is Tyler Ankrum. I know that we have CYTY saying go Butterbean. I get that, but Butterbean's only making his first Cup Series his Truck Series start this season. He made 3 Truck Series. This will only be his 4th Truck Series start in his career. Right? Yeah, he started out with a 4th place in North Wilkesboro, but finished 19th and 20th in Kansas. Yeah, it was in the 1 truck. I get it. He's in the 07 truck, but you're going up against Tyler Ankrum, right? One of the guys that is a perennial front runner and this. He finished 4th in this race and has 9 top 10 finishes in 15 starts this season, 7 top 5 finishes. He finished 3rd at North Wilkesboro. He finished 1st at Rockingham, 2nd at Martinsville, 4th at Bristol. Butterbean's going to have to finish top 3 or win this race to beat Ankrum, in my opinion. And I don't think that's happening. So give me Tyler Ankrum over Butterbean Queen.
And I think that with Butterbean too, he's in that 07 with Spire, which early in the year, we saw Larson win at Homestead. Earlier in the year, I'd say that's a really good truck. He's got a really good chance. Spire now is to the point, we didn't talk about it in the news because it's not official yet. Spire's to the point where there were rumors that the 77 truck might be shutting down and that they're selling off the rest of their truck fleet to go Xfinity racing. So the equipment maybe not quite what it could be there. And like you said, a guy making his 4th career start versus a Truck Series veteran of how many years and a race winner this year. I don't like Ankrum for the top 5s anymore, but I do like Ankrum over Queen in this matchup. We'll run through our F1 bets real quick here at the tail end of the show. Mine for the week, Piastri, Verstappen, and Russell all to be on the podium at 8-1 on BetMGM. I had a bonus bet to burn. It was during the Cup race. I couldn't put it on the Cup Series, so I threw it on F1. George Russell won this race before getting DQ'd last year. I went with Piastri over Lando Norris because Piastri was on the podium even before the DQ last year, ended up 2nd, and Lando Norris has never been better than P5 here. And Max is just an easy 3rd pick for any podium because it's Max Verstappen, regardless whether he's going to Mercedes or not. I like these 3 guys for a podium at 8-1. You like another guy for the podium, though.
I do. I like Lewis Hamilton, the winner of last year's race at Spa. Finished 4th here the year before. Overall has 5 wins on this track and 18 starts. I get it. He's in different equipment this year than he was in there, but not bad for Lewis Hamilton. 7th place overall in average finish, but the last few weeks, 4th place at Silverstone, 4th place at Spielberg, 6th, 5th, 4th, 5th, just outside of the podium. I know he's only got no podiums this year, but I think this is a good enough track for him to find his first podium.
Yeah, man, I want it so bad for him to go over there and succeed at Ferrari. He wants it too. He doesn't want to be a forgotten Ferrari driver. We know he and Leclerc definitely fighting for it there as everyone's looking to just stop by dominance over there. It'll be a fun weekend at the Brickyard. Rod, of course, best way to support you, the NASCAR Gambling Podcast, as well as So You Like Sports. And you can find all the fun stuff you're doing at RJ Villagomez. Yep.
Correct. Yeah, I got some fun rugby stuff out there, some CFL stuff out there. Go check out soyouLikeSports.com.
And it's a great time over here in Between Media. Join the IBT Racing family. We got some other fun IBT stuff coming around the bend as well. We're grateful to have you all here, and we hope that you continue rolling on down the back road with us each and every week. Best of luck for your bets at the Brickyard. We'll see you next time.